Good morning. It is time for another coffee chat. I am Jennifer. I am a licensed clinician in Colorado, Montana, and Kansas. I specialize in OCD. And thank you for joining me today for our next coffee chat. Today we're going to talk about the well-rounded approach is how I call it, but basically how our mental health and other aspects of our life interact with each other and can affect each other. And so we're going to chat about some of those ways that they can interconnect as examples, and then also what we can do a little bit to help each area to find balance. But it wouldn't be a coffee chat without coffee, so let's get started there. Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk today about, I call it a couple different things. I know I said in the intro, I call it the well-rounded approach, but I've also referred to it as the interconnected web with my clients. So I wanted to talk about that today because as a clinician in the field, I have noticed with some clients that come to therapy that they're so focused on, of course, naturally, the presenting problem that is causing them distress or difficulty. And we definitely focus on it, but after we get rolling with some interventions, some coping skills, I do like to chat and be very mindful and aware of how the client's mental health is affecting other areas of their life. For example, sleep, diet, movement, social interactions, work, other mental health or other physical health aspects. I like to talk about those components because everything within our life is connected. Nothing is a solo island where we just only focus on that and it only affects itself and it doesn't affect anything else that's going on in my life. That rarely happens. And so it's really important to also kind of talk about like the interconnected web, as I've called it, to make sure that everything within our life is balancing to the best of our ability. And when I say balance, I'm not meaning like perfect, like evenness. And as soon as we reach that, it's good to go. It's never going to change. That doesn't happen. When I talk about balance, I'm talking about balance in the sense of like this, very small fluctuations, because usually when we talk about imbalance, we're talking like big sways within areas of our life. And so I talk about with clients, we're not looking for this evenness. We're not going to be able to reach that. We're looking for a small flux within these areas of our life. And the small flux is because of life. It's because of factors, our day-to-day, what's happening in our life. That's what can cause our flux within these areas. And so that's why we make room for the sway. But as I was talking about how all of these areas are interconnected, and they impact each other and in a positive and a negative way. And so I think that it's important for us to talk about and just bring awareness to the fact that, if I'm experiencing high anxiety, I might not be getting the greatest sleep at night. And if I don't get the greatest sleep at night, my movement might also decrease. I might not have the energy to get up and go for a walk, let alone a run or a full gym workout. And that could also impact my physical health. And so and this is why I call it the interconnected web, because they impact each other. It's not just I'm experiencing a high level of stress or anxiety about from my OCD or just generalized anxiety, and it's only affecting this. It's connecting itself. And so no, I'm not a specialist, a sleep specialist, or a dietitian, or a personal trainer, or anything along those lines. But it's important to discuss and raise awareness of how these things are interconnecting, and small challenges of making changes to the other areas within our life so that we can start getting this balance back. The other piece that I want to talk about, because it definitely comes up, is that in my sessions, my clients a lot of the time are so focused on the presenting problem. Jenny, you're helping me with the anxiety. I want to tackle that, and then we can tackle some of these other components that are also areas of issues within my life. And sometimes I talk about with clients that, like, if we wait, that's not always helpful. And so, not to say that we have to put everything on the table all at once and challenge everything all at once, but also correcting our myth that well, as soon as this is better, and we can check it off our to-do list, then we'll move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, because it's something that we have to work at the same time in small ways, because they're constantly feeding each other and impacting each other. And so we can't always wait to make an improvement to our diet, because by the time we wait for that and we're like, okay, my mental health is better, I'm going to want to work on my diet. While I'm working on my diet, my mental health might start struggling. And so in a balanced way, we have to work on each area in small ways at the same time, so that we're aiming more for this, instead of, okay, I was able to get my mental health here and it's like fluctuating a little bit, but my sleep is still an issue. And so as these are like fluctuating, right? Like, and then they start naturally feeding off of each other, and they get bigger and bigger unless we're able to kind of do more one of these at the same time, right? So that is what I call the interconnected web, and why it's important to be talking about it and making room for it within sessions. Not because the therapist that you're speaking with, like I said, I am not a sleep specialist. I am not a dietitian. I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not a physical health doctor, primary physician. I'm not a primary physician. But dabbling in some of these little areas with your therapist can be really helpful. And if while dabbling in those areas, you voice a bigger concern, it's okay if your therapist says, I think it might actually be helpful for you to go get a checkup with your primary care physician to chat about that concern, because I would agree, it sounds concerning. That's okay, because that's part of our job. I'm not telling you, okay, you need an x-ray or an EKG or anything along those lines. That's not my area. That's not my area or my place to say that. But I can check in of like, how are you feeling overall? Because yes, our body can hold, of course, like be affected by illness and strain on the muscles and joints and things along those lines, chronic illness or pain. But at the same time, our body can also hold a lot of our mental health and our emotional health as well. And so it's not always just, I have stomach issues. Okay, well, you're also here for some anxiety. Let's talk about that, and let's monitor the stomach issues while we're also coping and learning new techniques for our anxiety, because our body does convert our emotional it can convert our emotional into physical symptoms. It is possible. And so I think that these conversations need to be made more within sessions, to highlight, to recognize, to raise awareness of how they're connecting and feeding off of each other and impacting each other, and not just, I'm only here for my anxiety and that's all I really want to talk about. Talk about also like how's your sleep, how's your movement. And I would specifically say, I know I've been using the term movement, and there's a reason why I choose the term movement instead of exercise, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure around the word exercise, when the goal should really be increasing your your body movement. It doesn't need to be a big run or a weight lift or signing up for exercise classes, things along those lines, because sometimes we don't have the energy or the capacity for that. But we could add a little bit more movement. And I usually give the example, walk to the street and back. Go up your stairs one extra time. Oh, my coffee's almost out. I'm going to go refill it now. I'm going to take an extra lap to the kitchen, because that's what we're really asking for. Sitting isn't helpful for our physical health all the time. And so are there small things that I can do to increase my movement? And I said sitting is not always great for our physical health, but even if I'm sitting here and I'm extending my legs, if I'm able to, and flexing my knee, that's even helpful. So wherever the increased movement is for your capability, think about that. And that's why I use the word movement instead of exercise with my clients. But I think that all of these areas are helpful to discuss, are important to recognize their influence and also impact on our emotional and mental health, which is why I do make a point to integrate it into my sessions with my clients, and not turn necessarily a blind eye to it. And like I said, I don't overstep. I'm very aware of what I'm suggesting and when my suggestion is not helpful enough, and when a specialist in the area would be more beneficial. And I have that conversation and open dialogue with my client. And I talk about why I need to now suggest a specialist. It's all about the communication, but we're always looking for this balance right here. This is what we're looking for. And it's because we know that life can happen. Life can impact all areas of our life, and we have to take into account for that. And so we have to be flexible. So that's all I have on interconnected web / well-rounded approach, balanced approach, all of those things, whatever we want to call it. But that's what I have for our video today. Thank you so much for joining me for an iced coffee today. No hot coffee today, but thanks for joining me for an iced coffee today. I hope you have a fabulous month, and I will see you next month. Have a good one.